The sun had already turned the desert road into a white ribbon of heat when Celeste Vane slammed the SUV door and looked down at the black Maid standing beside the broken milestone. "You wanted to prove you were useful," Celeste said, adjusting her sunglasses. "Find your own way back." Nia Brooks stared at the vehicle, then at the endless sand stretching beyond the highway. Her canteen was gone. Her phone had been taken. Even the emergency radio inside the SUV had disappeared before they stopped. "Mr. Vale believes we are inspecting the solar site together," Nia said calmly. "What will you tell him?" Celeste smiled. "That you panicked, attacked me, and ran into the desert." Nia looked at him. "You know that is a lie." Celeste stepped closer and lowered her voice. "You have spent 3 months following Adrian around like some loyal shadow. You notice too much, hear too much, and somehow he trusts your judgment more than mine. That ends today." Then she climbed into the SUV. The tires sprayed sand across Nia's uniform as the vehicle accelerated away. What Celeste did not know was that Nia had once survived 9 days behind enemy lines with no map, no radio, and no support. She was not hired by Adrian Vale because she could polish silver. She was hired because someone was trying to kill him. Before we continue, subscribe and tell us where you are watching from, because the person everyone underestimated was about to become the only one who could save a billionaire. Nia waited until the SUV disappeared beyond the heat shimmer. Then she removed the white apron from her waist and tore one seam open. Hidden inside was a thin strip of reflective emergency fabric, a tiny compass, and a ceramic blade no larger than her finger. 3 months earlier, she had arrived at Vale House under a false employment history. To the staff, she was a quiet maid from Louisiana who needed money for her younger brother's education. Only one person knew the truth: retired intelligence officer Elias Crane, Adrian's late father's closest friend. Elias had contacted Nia after 2 suspicious accidents nearly killed Adrian. Elias did not. Nia had left covert work years ago after a mission cost her partner his life. But Elias showed her evidence linking the accidents to someone inside Adrian's household. "Protect him without telling him," Elias had said. "If he knows, he will confront the wrong person." So Nia entered the mansion carrying folded linens instead of a firearm. She quickly discovered Adrian was not the arrogant billionaire she expected. He remembered every employee's name, funded schools anonymously, and spent nights reviewing designs for low-cost desert water systems. But he trusted Celeste completely. Celeste was elegant, intelligent, and adored by the press. She also controlled who entered Adrian's office, who joined his meetings, and which documents reached his desk. Nia began noticing strange patterns. Whenever Adrian planned an unannounced trip, Celeste knew his route before the security team. Whenever a contract was delayed, Celeste quietly benefited. And whenever Nia entered a room unexpectedly, Celeste stopped speaking. The desert inspection had been Celeste's idea. Adrian's company was building a solar-powered water station 70 miles from the nearest town. Celeste claimed she wanted to inspect housing conditions for future workers. She insisted Nia accompany her to assist with wardrobe and refreshments. Nia knew it was a trap before they left. Her instincts told her the desert was not the trap. Adrian's trust was, and Celeste would exploit it. Now, alone beneath the brutal sun, Nia studied the road. The SUV had turned south instead of returning toward the main highway. That meant Celeste was not going back to Adrian. She was meeting someone. Nia crouched beside the tire tracks. The sand carried a second pattern. Narrow motorcycle treads, fresh and deep. Someone had followed them from the last fuel stop. She stood and examined the horizon. To the west, black rock formations rose above the dunes. To the east, the unfinished water station stood approximately 12 miles away. Walking directly toward it would expose her to the open heat. The rocks offered shade, height, and perhaps a signal. Nia chose west. At Vale House, Adrian ended a video conference and checked the time. Celeste should have called an hour earlier. He sent a message. No reply. Then his private security chief entered without knocking. Sir, the desert team says Miss Vane never arrived. Adrian stood. What about Nia? They have no record of either woman. Nia was punctual to the minute. She never vanished without explanation. Track the SUV. The chief hesitated. Its transponder was disabled outside Red Rock. Adrian's expression changed. Get the helicopter ready. Meanwhile, Nia reached the first rock ridge with her breathing controlled and her steps measured. She had wrapped her apron around her head to block the sun and used the reflective strip to mark her path. Then she heard an engine. Not the SUV. A motorcycle moved through the valley below. The rider wore dark clothing and slowed near the place where Celeste had abandoned her. Nia watched through a crack in the rocks as he examined the sand, found her footprints and turned west. He was hunting her. She climbed higher, using sharp stones as handholds. Her maid's shoes were useless, so she removed them and tied them to her belt. The rocks burned beneath her feet, but she kept moving. At the ridge, she finally saw the SUV. It was parked beside an abandoned mining depot 2 miles away. Celeste stood beneath a rusted metal shelter speaking with 2 men. One held a silver case. The other wore Adrian's company security badge. Nia reached into her uniform collar and removed a button-sized camera. She aimed it toward the depot and recorded. The wind carried fragments of conversation. Sign tonight. Accident at the water site. Vale cannot leave alive. Nia's face hardened. Celeste had not abandoned her merely out of jealousy. She had brought Nia into the desert because both she and Adrian were meant to die there. A stone shifted behind her. Nia turned as the motorcycle rider stepped onto the ridge, blocking her escape. He drew a knife and smiled. Miss Vane said you were only a maid. Nia slowly removed the shoes from her belt. That was her first mistake. He lunged. Nia moved with shocking speed, striking his wrist with one shoe and twisting away before the blade reached her. The knife fell between the rocks. She swept his legs, caught his jacket, and used his momentum to pin him face first against the stone. Who is waiting at the water station? She demanded. He laughed through the dust. By the time you reach it, the billionaire will already be dead. Then a distant roar shook the valley. A helicopter appeared above the eastern dunes. Adrian had come looking for her. Nia stared at the aircraft, then at the mining depot below, where Celeste and both men were now watching the sky. For the first time, Celeste looked afraid. Nia grabbed the rider's radio. Adrian, she whispered, although he could not hear her yet. Do not land. Nia pressed the radio's transmit button and scanned frequencies until static broke into a man's voice. Vale 1, this is Falcon. We have visual on the depot. Nia lifted the captured rider's radio. Falcon, do not land. Repeat, do not land. The site is compromised. Then Adrian's voice came through, sharp and disbelieving. Nia. She looked toward the helicopter circling above the ridge. Yes. There are armed men at the depot, and someone is waiting at the water station. Celeste is involved. The rider beneath her tried to move. Nia tightened his arm behind his back. Are you hurt? No. Where are you? West Ridge, above the depot. Keep the helicopter high. Below, Celeste pointed toward Nia's position. One of the men raised a rifle. Nia rolled behind a boulder as the first shot struck the rock, sending stone chips across her cheek. The rider twisted free and lunged for the fallen knife. She drove her elbow into his shoulder, seized the radio, and kicked the blade over the ledge. Falcon, climb. The helicopter rose as another gunman emerged from the depot and fired upward. Adrian's pilot banked east, using the ridge as cover. Nia glanced down. Celeste was no longer beneath the shelter. She is moving, Nia said. She may be heading for the water station. Adrian answered. Then we go there first. No. That is what she wants. The captured rider laughed. He is already in the trap. Nia grabbed his collar. What trap? He said nothing. She searched his jacket and found a folded map marked with 3 red symbols. One was the depot. One was the water station. The third was a narrow canyon north of the project. A note beside it read, "Secondary extraction, 1830. Nia looked at the sun. They had less than 40 minutes. "Adrian, fly north," she ordered. "There is an extraction point in Cinder Canyon. Someone important is leaving at 6:30. Someone more important than Celeste. Someone she is working for." Adrian paused. "I am sending my security team to you." "No. Send them to the water station. I can reach the canyon faster on the motorcycle." "You are not going alone." "I already am." Before he could argue, Nia struck the rider behind the ear, leaving him unconscious, then took his keys. She descended the ridge, keeping rocks between herself and the gunman. The motorcycle waited nearby. Nia started it, tore off her white collar, and wrapped it around the scrape on her cheek. Her uniform was dusty, her feet burned, and heat pressed against her lungs. She sped north. Inside the helicopter, Adrian watched the motorcycle race between dunes. 3 months of quiet memories flashed through him. Nia noticing a loose balcony rail before he leaned against it, removing a cracked glass from his dinner setting, insisting his driver change routes after a strange vehicle appeared behind them. He had mistaken vigilance for excellent service. "Who is she?" he asked his security chief. "I do not know, sir." "Find out immediately." At the water station, Celeste arrived in the SUV and confronted 2 hired men preparing explosives beneath the control building. "The maid contacted him," she said. "We need to move now." One man shook his head. "The buyer ordered us to wait until Vale arrives." "He knows." "Then you failed." Celeste's face tightened. "I did not spend 2 years building this engagement to be blamed by a mercenary." The second man checked his watch. "The buyer is leaving through Cinder Canyon. If Vale survives, you explain it to him. Once the buyer escaped, every failure would belong to her." "Give me the detonator," she said. The man laughed. "You are not in control anymore." Celeste pulled a pistol from her handbag and shot the panel beside him. Sparks exploded across the room. "Give it to me." Nia reached Cinder Canyon and abandoned the motorcycle behind rocks. The canyon walls created deep shadows, cooling the air but hiding movement. A black aircraft rested on a flat strip ahead. Near it stood Elias Crane. The retired officer who had placed Nia inside Adrian's home was speaking with Marcus Dane, Vale Industries acquisitions chief. Beside them were 2 armed guards and silver cases. Elias had told Nia that Marcus was one of Adrian's most trusted executives. Nia raised the button camera and recorded them. "The foundation accounts are ready," Marcus said. "Once the explosion is confirmed, Celeste inherits his voting shares through the amended trust." "And then?" Elias asked. "Then we remove her." Elias smiled. "Good. She was always temporary." The truth hit Nia harder than the heat. Elias had not hired her to protect Adrian. He had placed her near him so she would unknowingly identify security weaknesses, routes, and household vulnerabilities. Every report she sent Elias had helped build the assassination plan. Then training took over. Nia moved behind the aircraft, opened a maintenance panel, and pulled a fuel sensor cable loose. The aircraft would start but could not safely take off. A guard rounded the tail and saw her. "Nia!" It was Calvin Ross, Adrian's former bodyguard, dismissed after the first staged accident. He reached for his weapon. Nia struck his wrist, trapped his arm, and drove him against the aircraft. His gun fell. The second guard ran forward, but Nia pulled Calvin into his path and swept both men down. Marcus shouted for Elias. Elias turned and saw Nia standing over the guards. For a moment, pride crossed his face. "I wondered when you would figure it out," he said. "You used me. I reminded you what you were." Nia aimed the recovered gun at him. "Step away from the aircraft." Elias did not move. "Do you believe Adrian will forgive you when he learns every detail of his life reached me through your reports?" A helicopter thundered above the canyon. Adrian had arrived. Elias smiled and lifted a remote from his pocket. You came to save him, he said. But you brought him directly over the bomb. Nia looked from the remote in Elias's hand to the helicopter circling above the canyon. Adrian, climb now, she shouted into the radio. Elias pressed the trigger. Nothing happened. His smile vanished. Nia had noticed the remote's signal light blinking weakly. The canyon walls were blocking the frequency, but the delay would last only seconds. She fired once at the metal case beside him. The bullet snapped its latch, spilling currency and electronic components across the ground. Elias flinched, and Nia struck his wrist. The remote flew into the dust. Marcus lunged for it. Adrian's helicopter descended behind the ridge. 2 security officers jumped out before the skids fully touched down. Marcus reached the remote first. Stay back, he shouted. Nia froze. Elias moved beside him. The bomb is beneath the landing strip. One press, and this canyon disappears. Adrian stepped from the helicopter. Nia, he called. Do not come closer. He ignored her. Marcus's finger hovered over the trigger. You were supposed to die at the water station. Then explain why, Adrian said. Marcus laughed. Your father built an empire, and you wasted its profits on clinics, water systems, and scholarships while the rest of us built your company. You planned murder because I funded hospitals. We took what we earned. Elias glanced at the remote. Its light turned solid green. The signal had returned. Now, Nia yelled. Adrian's security chief fired at Marcus's hand. The remote dropped, but his thumb had already pressed the button. A blast thundered through the canyon. The ground shook. Dust rose behind the aircraft, followed by black smoke, but the landing strip remained intact. Elias stared in disbelief. The bomb was never here, Nia said. Adrian looked toward the southern horizon. The water station. Celeste had detonated it early. Marcus's face twisted. She ruined everything. Elias shoved him aside and ran toward the aircraft. He climbed inside and tried to start the engine. The turbines turned, then failed. Nia had disabled the fuel sensor. Security arrested Marcus while Nia approached the cockpit. Elias emerged holding a pistol against a pilot hidden inside. Move away, he ordered. Nia stopped. You trained me better than this, she said. I trained you to understand sacrifice. You trained me to trust you. That was your weakness. Elias forced the pilot toward the canyon edge. Adrian moved closer, but Nia raised one hand to stop him. Elias looked at Adrian. Every route you traveled, every security weakness, every private habit, she gave me all of it. Adrian's gaze shifted to Nia. The accusation landed exactly where Elias intended. Nia lowered her weapon. It is true. Adrian said nothing. I sent reports because I believed he was protecting you. I did not know he was planning your murder. Elias smiled. Intent does not erase betrayal. No, Nia replied. But the truth decides what happens next. She dropped the gun. Elias relaxed for half a second. Nia kicked dust into his eyes and rushed him. The pistol fired into the air. The pilot fell clear as Nia twisted Elias's arm and drove him against the aircraft door. Elias struck her shoulder and reached for the weapon. Adrian grabbed it first and threw it beyond the cliff. Elias tried to escape, but Nia locked his arm behind him. You taught me never to hesitate, she said. Security officers pulled him away in restraints. Adrian and Nia faced each other amid smoke and spinning dust. You should have told me, he said. I was ordered not to. You still chose to send those reports. Yes. His disappointment hurt more than the desert wounds. Before either could speak again, the radio crackled. Owen, the site supervisor, spoke through static. Mr. Vale, the explosion damaged the station, but the structure is standing. We found 2 injured contractors and evidence that Miss Vane escaped in your SUV. Adrian grabbed the radio. Which direction? Southwest. Toward Vale House. Nia's expression changed. She is going back for the trust amendment. If she destroys the originals and transfers the shares before Marcus talks, she can still claim control. Adrian looked toward the helicopter. The pilot inspected the rotor and shook his head. We cannot fly. Blast debris damaged the blades. Nia turned toward the abandoned motorcycle. It has enough fuel to reach the highway. For one person, Adrian said. Nia picked up the keys. Then I go. Adrian stepped in front of her. No more secret missions. We go together. The radio crackled again, and Celeste's voice came through. Adrian, come home alone. I have someone here you cannot afford to lose. Then a frightened older woman spoke in the background. Nia. Nia went completely still. It was her mother. Celeste had turned the only person Nia loved into bait, and this time training alone would not be enough now. Adrian and Nia reached Vale House after sunset on the motorcycle, both covered in dust. The mansion looked quiet, but every exterior light was burning. That means she wants us to see the house, Nia said. She wants us to walk into her plan. Adrian checked the service entrance. Nia pointed toward the greenhouse tunnel used by gardeners. My mother will be inside the main study. Celeste knows you will go there first. They entered through the tunnel and moved beneath the west wing. From an air vent, Nia heard Celeste speaking. Sign the amendment, Adrian, and she walks out. Nia's mother sat beside the fireplace, frightened but unharmed. Celeste stood behind her with the trust papers on the desk and a pistol hidden against the chair. Adrian stepped into the study alone. You wanted me, he said. Let her go. Celeste smiled. You finally understand. Nia remained behind the wall, listening through the vent. Celeste pushed the papers toward Adrian. Sign your voting shares to me, and your charity projects disappear. No more desert stations. No more wasted millions. You never loved me. I loved what your name could give me. Adrian picked up the pen. At that moment, Nia cut power to the study. The room went dark. Celeste fired blindly, but Adrian had already dropped behind the desk. Nia entered through the hidden service door, grabbed Celeste's wrist, and forced the weapon toward the floor. The shot shattered a lamp. Celeste fought wildly, but Nia twisted the pistol away and pushed her against the desk without injuring her. Adrian freed Nia's mother. Security vehicles arrived outside. Owen had traced the motorcycle's emergency beacon and brought federal agents. Celeste looked at Nia with hatred. You were supposed to die in the desert. Nia placed the button camera on the desk. It recorded everything at the canyon, she said. Elias, Marcus, the stolen accounts, and your plan. Celeste's confidence disappeared. Agents arrested her for conspiracy, kidnapping, fraud, and attempted murder. Marcus and Elias later accepted deals that exposed the entire network. The stolen money was recovered, and the water station was rebuilt under independent supervision. Weeks later, Adrian invited Nia to the completed desert project. She arrived wearing a simple navy suit, not a maid's uniform. I owe you more than an apology, he said. You owed me the truth, she replied. And I owed you the same. Adrian handed her a folder. Inside was an offer to lead Vale Industries' new protective intelligence division. No secret reports, he said. No false names. You answer only to the board. Nia looked at him. Why trust me after what happened? Because when the truth cost you everything, you still chose to protect me. Her mother watched from the opening ceremony as clean water flowed through the new station for the first time. Adrian addressed the workers and investors. This project survived because one woman refused to let fear decide who deserved saving. He invited Nia forward. She did not stand behind him. She stood beside him. The desert had been chosen as the place where she would disappear. Instead, it became the place where every lie was exposed, every traitor was named, and the woman everyone mistook for a maid finally stepped into the life she had earned. Adrian never asked her to become the woman she had been before. Instead, he gave her the freedom to decide who she would become next. Nia chose a life built on truth, protection, and dignity. For the first time in years, she no longer needed a disguise to prove her strength.